So very good afternoon, students. Let us start the session. So one thing that I need to let you all know that you can announce to your remaining friends that there would be no updation in attendance. Whatever it is through the system, that is the only way by which they can get attendance, right? So please do not email or message me anything regarding attendance. It is up to you how you have to attain it. If there is some system fault, then I will help you, otherwise not. So in every lecture, I'll just wait for first 5 minutes, let everyone join, and then we can start ahead, right? So any questions, anyone from the last session that we had, or anything that you have discovered and you want to share with us? Anybody? No. Right. So just a quick recap. What we have discussed was some history of this, how Java developed from starting from C to Java, like what was the old thing, C++ minus minus. This is what actually it was, with these some dates and people involved inside it. And these were some initial versions, and this was the most stable one, and we would be learning 1.7 SE7 throughout this course, right? In the end of the semester, if we get some time, I will also tell you some of the updates that Java SE8 came with. Those are also to be known, but if time permits, we'll definitely discuss all those as well. Then we were at features of Java, and to understand it, first thing was simple and object oriented. So to understand this particular thing, we have taken help of this white paper, right? And in this white paper, what we have learned was that how it was like in that time in 1995, the person who were working on C or C++, along with OOPS concepts, there was a lot of burden with them. And then this was the way when Java was introduced. So we have discussed this first point and second point that day, that your programming language is object oriented, yet it is dead simple. So simple was the term given to, like, because anyone who is working on this language, on C or C++ language, and they have to migrate on Java, it was really simple for them. That is what this simple means. Okay. So it is in contrast to what they have stated in this document. This is from where everyone reads that Java is simple. This is the only reason. Then second thing is your development cycle is much faster because Java is interpreted and it obsolete all of these things. So for this, what we have discussed, we have taken two examples of 26th January Republic Day speech and some speech maybe if you are giving at school. So we have just discussed about it, that what is the difference between interpretation and compilation. So if I have to do some extempore, it would not be that much good. It could be full of errors that would waste some of the time and will not give the best performance. But if I get prepared beforehand, maybe 2-3 days back, I was informed that I have to give some speech. So I can write that speech, gather some very good facts, and then maybe I can practice it. So that thing would be called as compilation. So whatever errorless part is, that we have already resolved during compilation part. We have some backend prepared for us. Later, I would be delivering it in real time after maybe 2-3 days. That will give a very good performance. So that is why we say that a development cycle is much faster because Java is interpreted. We'll also understand this in one more sense today, how this is. Next point is that your applications are portable across multiple platforms. So before starting this, I would just like to ask you people, what do we mean by this portability? And what are multiple platforms? Tell me, anyone, what do we mean by portability? You can raise your hand or you can even type into chat section. I would prefer raising your hand and speaking up. That would actually add on to you something. It can run on different systems without making any changes to code. Work in the same way on different systems. We can run the same app on various platforms like Linux, Android, iOS. Some precise answers. Somehow these are correct, but still some precision is required. Yes, Debyasom?
Sir, since Java uses Java Virtual Machine, it executes the byte independent, and it can run on any embedded system or computer without that's why
No,
it's
I'm asking
portable.
what is portability? You are telling absolutely correct. What is portability? What do we understand by portability?
So it will run on multiple systems, like write once, run everywhere.
That is also correct. So someone from other batch told me that suppose if I write one, so okay, okay, tell me, is C programming language portable? Is C a
Sir,
portable
it's
language?
portable, but it should have its runtime environment to actually run the C code, like the GCC compiler and all that other dependencies.
So is the GCC compiler the environment or the compiler?
So it is the compiler. So the
So
in C it is
Mhm.
directly. So I mean in C source code is directly converted into object code, but in Java it is first converted into bytes code, which is machine independent. Like the JVM can run the bytecode in any
I
machine.
totally agree with you. You're absolutely correct. No problem at all. Right. Someone else? Is C a portable language? This is what Dibyasom is saying. It is a portable. Anyone else? Manikantan is saying no. Dibyasom is saying yes. Okay. But again, my question is portability, regarding portability. So Garvit is saying we can run the same app on various platforms like Linux, Android, iOS. So this is a very broad answer. Work in the same way on different system. No. Okay. Anyone else want to give it a try? What is portability? So from other batch, I got some answers from your B1, B2 batch, that if I can compile my code on any of the operating system, right? Multiple platforms means it could be hardware or software. But broadly, we always say about operating system because we never deal with hardware directly. There's always an operating system in between. First of all, we have hardware, right? That hardware connects to kernel, OS discuss to kernel, and then we have our application software over it, or system software, right? This is how hierarchy works, from a very broader perspective. So, for example, we have Chrome, we have Word application, or maybe we have TCC, the compiler of C that you use in Windows, or maybe GCC that we use in Linux. So these are compilers. Again, these are sort of applications because they execute upon the operating system. Word might be different for your Windows, right? And for Linux or Mac, it would be different. For Mac, it is there. For Linux, it is not. So you will find there different extensions, different files that works upon that particular operating system. So whenever you download any software, you must have seen that there are something like download it for Windows, download it for Linux or some other, right? So basically what happens, whatever you are writing, whatever code, whatever application you have, that application will send the code to operating system. So all of those are your kind of executable files. Just for example, we'll say if you see in Windows, you will find all of them to be executable. You double click on them and it is directly submitted to the operating system. If you double click on exe in Linux environment, it will not work, right? It is an application that can execute upon this thing. Then OS communicates with kernel hardware. That's a different part of the story. We are not at all interested in it. Similarly, if you have anything shell script sort of a thing, that could be of Linux. If I just fire it on Linux, then it will work and it will run, right? Now, for C language, if I take an example, I have a file called a.c, right? What happens, in fact, we'll use terminal for this. So see here, I would just write some simple code here. So we just have one file here, that is a.c, right? So how do we do this thing in C is we say gcc. So right now I am on a Mac machine, and this Mac machine is a Linux based, right? So if there's a compiler gcc, I have gcc, I have g++, I have clang, I can use any of those. These all are my compilers, right? So it is just taking some time. So you'll see clang no input file, g++, clang, and gcc. Three of them are there in my machine. It's my choice which one I want to use. So for example, I'll say gcc a.c and I press enter. Now if I say ls, what is the output? I got a new file, a.out. This is kind of an executable thing for us, right? So there's a command like /a.out. This is how we executed our programs here on Linux. Maybe you also have done in your PDS time, right? So what it is doing, it is saying whatever content this a.out file contains. If I just print this content of a.out, this is the content. What my compiler has done, my program which I wrote in a.c, this was a high level code written in C language. I used a compiler. Compilers are translators that will read this code from this file. So this is also an application. This is a compiler, that's another thing, but it is also application, system software. It is taking this as an input. This is the input of this application. Like for MS Word, you are typing something, that is the input, right? Similarly, gcc a.c, this a.c is the input for this application. And this input goes there, it gets processed, and it gives us our file, that is a.out file. And this is the content inside a.out file. So what is this basically? When you compile this code, the output that we got is a.out. This can directly be submitted to operating system. We directly say ./a.out. So this / is something that we are submitting it to operating system. So the language which we can see here, this is somewhat OS can understand. This is what we need to get. This is something that OS will understand. We are submitting our code directly to the operating system. This thing is connected to our next property also. So please pay attention to this thing, right? To whom we are submitting? To the operating system. And as soon as I press ./a.out, I will get my output, that is hello world. So operating system understand what we were trying to say. It will convert it to the hardware language, whatever it is, and it is giving us the output that was intended to be out of this program, right? For the same language, if I would be working on Windows machine, then my compiler would be TCC. Obviously, it is not here, right? Then what I would be doing there is, you can try on your machine, you would say TCC and a.c. So that is Turbo C++ compiler, right? Then it would compile and it would create an a.exe file. If you just open your Turbo C folder, inside it you will find there is an exe file created. So in that case, in Windows, it would be your a.c. Source code would be the same, no matter how it is. It would be exactly the same, no problem at all. It is just your compiler should support that particular operating system. We would be adding something like this, and the output would be a.exe. Like here, I have to type ./a.out to execute something. In Windows, if I just say a.exe, it would execute. So again, that was also submitted to the operating system. So this part of the story is happening exactly the same way. On Windows also, I'm sending it to OS. On Linux also, I'm sending it to the OS. And then my program is giving me the desired output, whatever I want out from it, right? But if I take this, see, here some students get confusion regarding portability. I'm discussing it because yesterday in another batch, they thought this is portability, that if I can take this code from here to Windows, then it will work. And if I take this code from Windows to Linux, then it will work. Basically, this is your source code, right? You never give this to anyone. That is nothing to do with portability, right? What you give to other is your executable thing, a.out or a.exe. This is what you are going to give to your end user, to your client, right? So if I take this a.out and try to execute on Windows machine, it will not work. because the language that is inside this file is for Linux OS understanding. Similarly, if I bring a.exe to Linux environment, it will also not work because the language that it contains is for Windows environment. Right? Got this point? Just to understand this thing, portability is about taking these, the outputs of your program. They should be executing everywhere, not the source code. One more question. You must have seen these folders in most of the languages. Can anyone tell me what are these? No matter you are using Python, Java, C, C++, anything, you will find these things there. Even TCC folder you will find, in JDK folder you will find them, in Python, in Kotlin, any language you open, you will find these folders. So can anyone tell me what are these? src, bin and lib? Anyone? What are these folders? src, bin and lib? Dibyasom?
Sir, SRC, I guess the SRC has the source codes. Bin is for the compilers of all the languages that that program uses, and so what was the third one?
lib.
So lib is the so it has the library dependencies that the code will use.
So some part you are telling correct, it's source.
Yes, about yes, sir.
This is what?
So it has the compile. So the language compilers
What is
like
the meaning of bin? What is the
so
meaning of,
bin.
like, src means source? Bin
Yes,
means?
sir. Binaries.
Bin means? Yes,
Binaries.
it is binary.
Yes, sir.
Yes. And lib is library.
Libraries.
There are many, and just it is nothing like very need to know thing, but yes, you should know why they are. So I'll tell you the concept. Still, you are somewhere wrong. Anyone else? Divyasom said that bin is for having compiler like files, exe files. Is it correct? That bin contains compiler like files, GCC or anything such that? Why it is there? It is correct. He is saying correct that yes, those files need to be there. But why? What is the reason? Yes, Paritosh is correct. When you compile a code, its exe file is created in bin folder. But do it happen in this is a different reason, Paritosh. If you have seen C code and there this file is created, there's a different reason because we are not providing the path. So that's why it is getting created in the same folder. Okay. See, suppose you have your program with the name some exclusive software you have created, maybe in C language only, let it be. Okay, you have some exclusive software that you have created and you are going to monetize over it. You are going to earn revenue selling this software, right? So will you be giving this particular thing to the user, this file, .c file? Yes or no? You have written some logic. There's something invention that you have done, very critical software. You have just created it. And will you be distributing this to your clients? So obviously, no. We would never wanted to distribute it. If you are talking about an open source software like TCC, JDK, bin, then we have these folders as well, right? But for proprietary softwares, take an example of Microsoft Word. Do you get somewhere the code of Word? You only always get an executable. That is what you can use. You do not have source code of MS Word, Microsoft Word, because it is monetizing it. But for these kind of things, you always have source and bins. So source is for source. Source contains source code. This thing would go to the source folder. And once you compile it, the output, your a.out or a.exe, whatever it is, you can rename it and you will place this thing in the binary. Why this folder is named as binary? Because it contains something that your operating system can directly understand. Because in the end, the last thing that we know is OS, to whom we communicate. We do not communicate to these things. So anything that it can understand is binary for us. Whatever we give to OS, it will do whatever it has to do to get it done, right? And binary is what? Ultimately, in the hardware, there is a CPU, right? And we know CPU understands 0101 and it gives you 01 and 01. That's it. That's why this name is given, that whatever is executable, because you will always execute the things on operating system. Whatever is executable, that is the inside binary that you can directly call on to the operating system. If you must have seen some softwares that are open source available, there are multiple ways you can download them. First way is to download the source and compile it yourself and get the executables for you. Have you seen this? You can download the complete software and you have to build it on your own. You will build it, you will compile it, then you will get what you want to use. Or you directly download a installation manager, then you double click, install it, and then you directly use it, right? Have you seen this thing? You can download just the source code and you can compile it to get the output. So whenever you will find this thing that you want to download source, you have to download the source, you will compile it, and you will find all of the things are in bin. So most of the time TCC that you are using, inside bin, you will find only exe files. Why? Because they are executable on this operating system, on Windows. That is why they are there. You can click, there are many executables you will find there. Make command would be there, linker would be there, TCC compiler would be there. So basically, when you say tcc.exe, tcca.c, this do not make exe, it just compiles. Later on, there is a command called as make that takes the intermediate file and it makes an exe. But TCC takes care of all of this. I'm just taking for the example of TCC, right? So these things are your binary that you want to port from one operating system to another. And this is what you will see, that if you are downloading Java for Windows, you will find exe files in the bin folder. If you download your Java for Linux, you will find sh files or script files that would be there that you will be executing. But if you open source folder, you will find both of them contains Java files. Notice this. If you open source folder on Windows or maybe on Linux, both of them contains Java files only, .java. But executables, the machine dependent things are available in binary. That's why we always go to bin folder to execute our task, right? And the code, this a.out, is it can be transmitted from one OS to another OS without any further conversion. Then we say it is portable, and otherwise it is not. For C language, we can conclude that I cannot transmit a.out here, and I cannot transmit a.exe here on Linux. So that means C is not a portable language. Understood? C is not a portable language. Why? Because we cannot transmit the binaries generated from Linux to Windows and vice versa. Got it? Great. Then moving next, we are talking about Java, and we are saying Java is portable. So how Java is portable? So to discuss that, now let us again take help of our terminal. B3, B4 batch. Right. So just for simplicity, code hello.java. Do not worry about the code right now if you do not know. Just wait. I just tried one code here. Java hello. That's it, right? We will discuss it later on. So this is some high level code for Java. I'm sure all of you must be knowing this, right? Here what I will be doing is I would have my compiler here, similar to GCC. So this time if I open this file folder, I have one file hello.java, right? This time what I will do is I will compile it Java C hello.java. Again, this is the executable for Linux, right? No error means executed successfully. So now what we can see here, hello.class is created for us from hello.java. So this is my class file here. Previously, it used to be a.out in case of C, C++. This time it is hello.class. Again, we cannot read this file also. This is again something that we cannot understand, right? Because this is, and yes, like for your C code, we were doing like this, a.out. We were submitting everything to the operating system. This time, if I say /hello.class, first of all, due to extension, it will say permission denied. I cannot execute this thing. And even if I do sudo permission to it to execute it, even then it cannot execute it. Why? Because whatever Java C has done to this Java C, Java compiler, C means compiler. We have written the code, we are compiling it. The output is hello.class. This hello.class file is actually a portable class. This is the intermediate code, right? Previously, what was happening? In our previous example, this file was this file contains the language that our operating system understands. We can directly submit and execute it. This file contains the language that OS understands. We can directly execute it. But this time we have hello.java and hello.class. To compile and create this, what I used, that was Java C. C means compiler. This is again for Windows, it would be Java C.exe. And for Linux, it is its own file, executable, Linux executable, right? In Windows, it would be something like this. No matter which operating system you are compiling this Java code, every operating system will always generate exactly the same class file. And this is what we call as an intermediate code. This language is not known by any operating system at all. No operating system knows this language. But how to execute this code? Because according to this pattern, we used to submit our executables to operating system, then we used to execute them. But right now, our executable is .class. That is actually not executable. We need to make it executable, then it will go to OS. So how that happens is basically, this was compiler, we have interpreter also. Remember we said Java is a interpreted language. So it uses best of both the worlds. While you write your code, you can compile your code. It is error free, it created a class file. Whenever there is a class file available, that class file is always error free. It is guaranteed because it has been already compiled by Java compiler, and no matter at what operating system it was compiled upon. Once you have that, you just have to submit that class file to the Java interpreter. This is itself known as JVM, and it is the Java interpreter also. This is the thing. Again, for this we have Unix executable. For Windows, there would be java.exe file there. And if I just submit it, this contains some intermediate language. This knows this intermediate language and the language of the operating system upon which it is installed. Getting my point? This is some intermediate language. Suppose this is Hindi, right? Here we have French. Maybe this is Linux. And here maybe we have English. Maybe this is Windows. Just for example, right? And whatever Java C did on any operating system, it created the code that is always in Hindi. This is whatever intermediate language. On every operating system, there sits our translator, the interpreter, right? Compiler and interpreter both are translators, right? It is responsible to convert Hindi to French, because it is on this system. Here also we have Java for Windows, that would be maybe .exe file. It is responsible for converting this into English, right? It will guarantee that all the calls are translated properly. So what it will ensure? This Java on every operating system. This will ensure that whatever was written in Hindi is exactly with the same meaning translated to Windows or to Linux, whatever OS they are installed upon, and the program will behave exactly the same in both of the environments because of this good translator, which is of type interpreter, right? And because now I can send this same code to any operating system, and hence we call it as a portable. This code is portable. We just compile it once, we can execute it anywhere, having this thing with us. And what is this? This is your JRE, or what we say Java Runtime Environment, or JVM, or interpreter. There are many names for the same thing. Understood? Whenever we say about portability, some student feel supported, like there's something that we say it is supported on this OS, it is supported on this OS. So supported and portability are two different things. How they are different? I will say that this Java supports Linux and Java also supports Windows. Maybe there is some operating system unknown. We don't know what is the name of that operating system. And we do not have this Java file for that operating system. Then we will say Java do not support that operating system. So obviously then nothing will work because we do not have interpreter that can communicate to this. So that is what is meaning by supported. So as on today, whatever popular operating systems are available in the market that are commercially used, all of them are supported by Java. If there is some specific OS, for example, we can take an example of any maybe operating system of some Chinese mobile phones. Those are embedded devices. They do not have JVM inside it, right? No Java inside them. So you cannot execute your code there. So write once, execute anywhere doesn't mean we can execute it anywhere. It should be supported by Java. But why do we say so? Because most of the operating systems actually supports Java. See your Windows, Linux, Sun Solaris, Unix variants, whatever variants of it, all of them supports Java. So then we can say, yes, Java supports all of the platforms that are commercially available. Got it? So that is the meaning of supported by, and this is the meaning of portable. So C is not portable, Java is portable. And one thing more. So we are here. So how we should organize our code right here is something like this. I would create one folder with the name source. I will say Java code will go inside this. I will make another folder with the name bin. My classes or maybe the executables, whatever they are, they will go inside this. Basically, I cannot call it bin. It should be classes. In classes, this will go, and in bin, the real executable would go. That would be created in the real time only. So once you will be using some IDEs, you will find these things there, that there are these kind of folders. Then you should not be surprised to see them. Lib is for libraries, just like header files or packages, whatever you are using in your program, maybe connection to database or creating some streams for big data ingestion. In those scenarios, whatever libraries you are using, they could be here, right? So this is how your this project would be managed. Later you will see in the IDs. So far so good, everyone? Any questions so far? Great. Then we have next thing, that is your applications are robust. Who can explain me what do we mean by robust? Maybe in English also you can say what is the meaning of robust and what is it related to? I'm just spending time on these things because this is a very generic question. Anyone would ask you, what are the features of Java? You should never forget these things. Correlate them with the real things, right? Tell me, what do we mean by robustness? What is the meaning of robust? Anyone? Strong, very strong. Which does not fail easily. Actually, this is the correct one. Yes. See, a rock can be strong, right? But it is not robust. Robust is something onto which someone is trying to push it harder, right? If you are robust, then if someone says anything, it doesn't affect you. Then you are robust to the things. You do not feel some emotional things. That is what we meant about being robust. Strong is a different thing, right? Strong means, okay, a rock is or a wall is very strong. But robust means if again and again someone is hitting it, even then it can just withstand. That is what we mean by robust, right? Immutable is something different, Manikant. This we'll discuss later. So robust is like which can withstand the failures, which can like be stand steady even if again and again it has been hit. So what I mean by this here is, we'll take example of C language again, because that is the language you know very well. Suppose I say int array 10. This is my program, right? Inside this array, I say array 15 is equal to 1 or maybe 0, whatever it is. That's it. Is there any error in the program? This C program, will it work or not work? Tell me. If I compile it, will it compile? Logical error, it will work. Okay, anyone else? Arrays of 10 and we are using 15 and we are talking about C. Okay, so basically it will work. There's no problem at all in this program. It will work. And how it will work is, this is my RAM. It contains many processes being running inside it, right? Many of them. Whatever is remaining empty, these spaces, these are the available memory. This is what I'm just trying to demonstrate here. Okay, we executed this program and during runtime we got this memory location. This is RAM, which is used by OS to have its whole temporary stuff inside it. Just imagine somewhere in this location, this box, there is some variable, sig term, any variable, do not worry about the name, that contains some value, maybe 1. Okay, there is some variable that contains the value 1 in this RAM. And what is the significance of this variable? The significance of this variable is, until and unless this is 1, OS is working fine. There is some sort of a flag for the operating system. If anyhow the value of this 1 changes to any other value, maybe 0, what might happen? This OS will crash. This will make this OS crash basically, right? And your computer will reboot, whatever state it was. There were many processes which were going on, no matter. If it goes 0, that means there is a instruction to turn it off instantly. It is just like a power off button in virtual machines you must have seen. A signal, right? That is inside the RAM. You execute this program inside the terminal. We know we compiled it, we got an a.out file. And what we say, we directly say ./a.out. We are directly submitting our instruction set to the operating system. And this OS is so nice to us that it believes us so much. It will not look at your code. It will just execute it, right? So when you try to execute it, OS allocated this memory to you, that okay, this is the place where you can play. Okay, this program started its execution and it was intentionally written there. Suppose ARR 15 is equal to 0. So what is this ARR? This could be some base address, maybe 1001. What was my ethical access in this array? That was from 1001 to 1001 plus 10 multiplied by 4, that is 1041. What I am actually trying to access is 1001 plus 15 multiplied by 4. So it is 1061. This is the memory location that is I am trying to access through this. I hope all of this, whatever I'm saying, you all know. This is the base address, size of int, 10 is the index, right? So this was the legitimate access which was given to it from 1001 to 1041. Within our code, we are writing array 15. I could also write array 20, anything, but I'm writing array 15. That means I am accessing the memory location 1061. By coincidence, the value of this variable is also 1061. Just maybe by coincidence only, right? And I executed this program. Now what will happen? Because C memory do not provide any memory management technique, and operating system relies on you so much because you are the administrator of your system. You can run anything, whatever you want. It is your kind of a thing. So you said execute these codes. It will execute these codes. It will go to this location and make it 0, and your OS will crash. And if you have done some reading, these were the things that were called as TSRs, or what you say today, viruses. So if you are using a C program, suppose someone give you an a.exe file for Windows with some fancy name, maybe crack windows.exe, you will double click on it. It might sit somewhere in your RAM and it can even copy your entire data from it. Another point that you can understand here is, leave this question. Suppose I say, I just create a pointer, PTR. I will say initially PTR is equal to 1. And then I will say while true, print on the screen whatever is at star PTR and PTR plus plus. See what this code will do. It will start from this location. Whatever is there, it will print on the screen, move next, and after a while, it will come here. You will get entire snapshot of your RAM onto your console. Whatever is there, any password, anything, whatever is in the RAM, you can get it printed on the screen. So now you can understand how critical it is. So finding this variable and making it 0 is just an algorithm that you have to make. Start from 1, go till end, find for this variable. As soon as you find it, store its address in some temporary pointer, and then make it 0, and it's done. System crashed. Right? This is what memory management, lack of memory management in C language lead us to pointers. You must have heard of things, dangling pointer, and maybe somewhere if you have started learning pointers, you must have seen that use pointers wisely. They may crash your system. Right? So these are the whole points because of which this happens. What Java has helped us here is, right? For the same thing, how Java helped us. What will happen in case of Java? OS, and this is RAM. Like all other processes, there is one first-class citizen here in the operating system who has said before execution that I am JVM. This is the process that is running on Windows. Previously, our a.out was the process, but now your JVM is the process that is running in the operating system and occupying the RAM. So this is the portion of your memory that is with JVM. Now, first you compile your program, nothing to do with operating system till here. You get a class file. Okay, then you say, Java, please execute it for me. So you are saying someone to execute, and who is this? That is JVM. So whatever instruction set you have written here, they have already been checked by compiler that they are not doing anything wrong. For example, array index out of bound or all those sort of thing. First check is there. Second check is here. When your program is executing inside JVM, it will keep on monitoring you. It will monitor you and it will see, it know its boundaries starting from 00 to maybe 2020. It knows its boundaries. If it sees somewhere you are trying to go outside of it, same thing like we did in the previous, it will throw an exception, right? Then we will learn something how we can solve those exceptions. But that exception for you right now is an error. That okay, you cannot go outside it. You have to terminate your program. No, this is the only thing where you can reside upon. This is what makes Java robust, because this JVM provides memory management, because of which all of your applications are isolated from rest of the environment. This is not one way. This application can also not enter your territory. This is also ensured by JVM. Someone else cannot come inside your territory. It will ensure that thing, right? Whatever is stored, how it can ensure? See, again, same C example, it can just peek around, but it will keep all of these things somewhere encrypted mode that anyone cannot just take a screenshot and just can print those. Understood, everyone? Right? So if you have any other questions, we can discuss. So REST points are not that much of importance. Like next is high performance, because multiple concurrent threads of activity and application are supported by the multi-threading built into Java environment. So again, these all the features that we'll see, like multi-threading environment. So multi-threading is something, parallelism, concurrent processing, that our Java language provides. There are different APIs available through which for the same application we can create multiple threads. Because JVM is itself a process that we have just seen. It is itself a process. So within the process, it allows us even to create thread. Have you people gone through the subject operating system, or it is in this semester? Operating system. Anyone please reply? Previous sem. So you know about process and thread, right? So what is the difference? Process are heavyweight, thread are lightweight processes. They share the common memory. So whatever memory is given to you, it can be shared by all of them. So that's why JVM is the best thing to allow you multi-threading, because it has your memory control over it, right? So that is why, like mostly in graphical applications, you need multiple this concurrent threads to be working. Like maybe in one screen there is something executing here, in sub portion of the screen something else is executing here. So there would be different threads in the same process that are executing, right? So we will learn this in detail, what multi-threading are and how do they work. Conceptually, practically we'll see them here, right? And if you have done it in C language also, POSIX threads, then also you will find it really more easy in Java as compared to the previous one. Your applications are adaptable to changing environment, because you can dynamically download code modules from anywhere on the network. So again, this is of course understandable. We have a class file with us that can be sent from one location to another through the network, and we can directly execute it with the help of JVM anywhere. So it is adaptable. Adaptable in the sense, maybe there was some library dependency in your code and that has been updated. So you don't have to update the entire code. You can just change one module of it. Your entire application will automatically feel the change. That is what adaptable is. What do you understand by adaptable? Adaptable weather, that this person is adaptable to weather. You can withstand that particular change in temperature. So similarly, here also there are certain facilities given that we will see, like in case of multi-connections, dynamic class loading and setting the values through properties. All of those things are available here. And your end user can trust your applications are secure, even though they are downloading code all over the internet. So Java runtime system has built-in protection against virus and tampering. So because every code executed, if I compile a code on a Windows compiler or I compile it on a Linux compiler, the class file generated would be exactly the same. So that makes it robust. That even if, just for understanding, we can understand if someone got a class file, it knows how it was created. There's a concept of hashing. So that class file might contain some value inside it, that is an hashing of that thing. By that, JVM can know whether it is from a proper Java compiler or not. If someone has changed something in between, it will break. Okay, these all guarantees are provided through your JVM only. So you don't have to dream about these features, they are here now. So Java programming language environment, this is an environment, right? So Debosem, I think starting he said that C environment. C is not an environment, it is just a language, a compiler. Okay, it is an environment because of JVM. It provides you the environment where programs can execute and provide you different things. This is a detailed version of all what we have discussed. You can go through it. I'll give you an assignment over this. And from next class, we will start. Okay, since when, beta? Is it okay now? Right. So one more request to you. If there's certain issues like this, like voice is breaking, turn on the mic and say me, sir, voice is breaking, instead of typing here. Suppose I was on this screen and you were typing there. So there was of no use, right? So next class, we will be starting with OOPS concept. That's all for the day. Have a good evening. Bye.